Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about being looped in. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, as a software engineering tech lead, when an engineer in your team drives a new large initiative by themselves without looping you in meetings with business and architecture teams, how would you try to embed yourself and add value? I wouldn't. Because I trust my engineers. It's that simple. So I have a notion that I follow when I lead any team, and it's not really only when I lead a team. It's the same thing I sort of strive for, because I think it has been proven beyond, like throughout human history, that this is the most effective way to quality check, to do basically anything with just the right amount, in my opinion at least. This is the only thing that has actually really worked when it comes to making sure that things happen in a predictable way, and that is to do what I call create a gateway. And it's no different. It's the same thing when you have a border, you have quality checks, or your CI/CD pipeline, or anything like that. It's basically the idea is very simple. You have somewhere you want to go, and the government, your company, your friends, it doesn't matter who it is, puts a check in place that you have to pass before you are allowed to continue. And so on the first day of every single person that I work with, if I am the tech lead in this scenario, I walk them through the onboarding process, which is usually we sit down together, usually the whole team, and we sort of talk about, this is where everything is. It's nice to have you here, and you try to, you do the normal meet and greet things, and it's gonna be fun to working together, etc., etc. And then you walk through the values of the company, and like sort of the mission, or like what we're trying to build, etc., etc. And then we always talk about. I always talk about this dynamic, because it's very important for me to touch on this dynamic, because it is. The thing is, guys, something I don't know if you ever led a team, but something that you should be aware of is that when you are someone who has even the slightest bit of authority in a group, it's sort of like it's sort of the same thing that with you when you take a video camera and put that in a room, people would change their behavior because there is a camera in the room. It's the same thing with you. When you have any type of authority, your thoughts and opinions start mattering a lot more. Now, when I do this sort of stuff, what I usually tell the engineers is that you're not, like, you can't commit to me because I might not be here. And the same thing goes for when you're making decisions. If you are making a decision of any type of scope, the only thing I want you to consider is if this is a large-scale decision. If this is a big thing that you're going to make a decision on, then you should loop me in, because you can. The thing is, my job is to look out for certain things. I don't care if you add a small tiny little library or something like that for one of the projects that we're working on, or like if you're, I don't know, if you skip unit tests one day and then you do them later, or these sort of trivial things. But if you decide to change our entire stack into a new direction, or you decide to like green light like an initiative that's going to tie up our team for like a large project, then I should be included, because it is my job to oversee the the big scope stuff in a very direct way and be very informed of what happens. And the reason why is not necessarily because I feel that I need to all the time. It is because I need, as the tech lead, to be able to answer exactly one question better than anybody else in the entire team. And that is the question, and is the only question that all my managers expect me to be able to answer, and that is, how are things going? What's going on? That's it. If I can answer that question with confidence and make people realize, I understand that, yeah, everything's going good, or like, inform my stakeholders or my boss of how things are going, then I'm fine with it. So I don't have to embed myself into a conversation, because if I had value to provide in the first place, then my engineer who is driving this initiative shouldn't be able to reach out to me, because I don't have to be in every meeting. I actually encourage, it's something that I do on a very regular basis. I train the engineers in my team to take over my job for me. It's that simple. They are like, there is no excuse. There's a lot of them that sometimes that in the beginning of things they sort of act as if, oh well, Frederick isn't here, so I can't make this decision. I go, is this a decision that is really, really big? No, it's like, it's like just defining a story. Yeah, I'm not, and I've actually said that to a few developers. Guys, I'm not your product owner. I'm not your dad. You can create a story and put it in the backlog. I fully believe that you can do that. And sometimes you have people who like complain about these trivial little things that, oh, I'm not really sure what should I answer these emails or so forth. Yes, you should, because the email was for the team and I wasn't there. Therefore, it is now your job to do this. You can't just plug out. This is not how we do things in my team. You are responsible for the results of this team. You are directly responsible, and I will hold you responsible if I see that you're not contributing. Because it's one of the foundational values in the way that I run my teams, which is, as I've said on a few occasions, you should be able to do my job in terms of the things that I actually do, because the role of a tech lead is very simple in an average team, and even a junior level software developer can reply to an email or host a stand-up. These are not complicated things, and if that's not happening, it's not happening because they don't care or feel like it's their job, etc., etc. But as I've said, I make it very clear that the only time they should loop me in and I should be directly involved is if they decide to make a fundamental change to the way we do work. In other words, they decide to, no, we're not going to write unit tests anymore, or we're going to do mob coding all the time for everything, or we're going to change from, I don't know, C# to Golang or something like that in the stack. And otherwise, as I've told them, we don't have to have this idea that I am the bottleneck for everything, that I have to do everything, etc., etc., because I will be involved in the stuff that I need to be involved in. And I can promise you guys, if you've ever done any type of management, the higher up you get, the less time you have, the less involved you can be. So it's very important that on top of this freedom that you sort of provide and the trust that you put in your people, if we just now sort of exclude the obvious stuff, which is trust your people and have good people, is that you have to have a very regular sync up with your developers. I meet with them on a daily basis. I talk with them all the time. We have conversations over and over and over, and every week we have like open forums where I pull in some cases I have more than one team, where we sit and we just talk. Okay, what's going on? How are things going? What's, etc., etc. And that way I can keep like a lookout for things that I might need to help with, etc., etc. And otherwise I have my own stories to work on. I still do quite a bit of coding. So what I want you to take away from this is that I don't believe that it is a good idea for an engineer, for a software and tech lead or a team tech lead to try to embed themselves into large projects, because the entire goal of what you do should be to make the team the strongest team that can be. And you have to, it's sort of like letting your kids grow up. They have to be able to go and play with other kids at like some other family's house, or go and do activities, or go on the bus by themselves, etc., etc. You can't micromanage them in too much. The only time you should do that is when there are stakes that you have to be involved in, where they're not really able to manage the situation on their own, either if you're dealing with a junior developer or if you're talking about things that you have to know because it's your job to know, because and this is like a classic one, when you get so high level that you don't even know what your own people are doing. That's bad. You should be aware of how things are going, what decisions are being made, etc., etc., but you should take the back seat. And the only thing that I usually do in order to mitigate sort of things that might happen is that they are, as I said, I create a gateway. They, just as with the unit test or like automated testing in a CI pipeline, they know that they're going to sit in a meeting with me once a week at the very least, and we're going to talk about how are things going with the project. And then we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to be aware of what's going on. And they are also aware of that as sort of like a general, like you can't just say to me that, oh, I was just taking orders, or no, you weren't there so I couldn't make a decision. You are expected to make a decision. I've made it your job to make a decision, and then we'll talk about that decision afterwards, because you are responsible for the results, not doing what I say and then sitting on your ass when I'm not here. Second thing is, when I have this level of trust in my people and they know that there is a very informal discussion that's going to happen, I get organic exposure to how things are going and if they need more help or so forth and so forth. So I don't have to worry that someone's going to, not do their job, or someone's going to make really radical changes without me being aware. It's the same thing with the border. You don't have to care so much what the people are doing until they get into the get to the border where you do the checking and so forth and make sure that they're not bringing anything dangerous into the country or whatever, right? It's the same principle. Let people have as much freedom as they want, as long as you have some check to validate that the thing that is going to happen next is going to happen in a sustainable and good way. Have a great day.